In today's lesson, I want to review with you how you can use a graphic organizer called Concentric Circles to analyze literature. So, picture this. You have a flashlight. You're in the dark and you shine your flashlight onto a wall. The light reflecting on the wall would look something like this. Now, in this reflection on the wall, can you see circles? Now imagine that these circles were different layers or levels of understanding or meaning in a piece of literature or a nonfiction text. Where is the light the brightest? In the center. So in the center is where we put the deepest level of meaning that we can find from a piece of literature. In the middle ring is where we would put our inferences or patterns or maybe some of the conclusions that we've drawn about the literature. And in the outside circle, the outside ring, is where we would put the details, the concrete details that have led us to finding those patterns and deeper meanings. Let's practice. The first thing to keep in mind is that there are many details to a text, and all of these different details could help you draw different patterns, conclusions, or inferences, but also multiple details can all be leading to the same abstract idea or the same deeper meaning or understanding of a text. In other words, the theme, for example. Most literary texts have multiple themes, but maybe one primary theme. There could be several different types of detail in the text that could reveal that theme. In this sample, I am just going to look at a few, so I will not be completing this concentric circle for the entire text or for all of the details. I just want to give you an idea of what you'll be doing and what it would look like. The first concrete element I'm going to look at is diction, and maybe you can remember from one of the previous lessons, we already noted that there were many words in this poem that related to the idea of time. So I've, in the outer ring of the concentric circles, identified these words: first, hold, early, hour, dawn, day, and stay. The connection between these words is that they all relate to the idea of time, and that things that are valuable and precious do not last a long time. If you can remember, this is one of the conclusions we came to in the last activity. So now we need to see how can we take this one level deeper or one step further to gather some final meaning about the poem. As we move into the center circle of the diagram, we need to come to some deeper abstract meaning about the poem. In this case, we have already come very close to a theme for this poem. But I suspect that if we analyze a few other concrete details and come to some other conclusions, that we might be able to come up with an even better theme than what we would with just these details. So I'm going to find out some more things for the outer rings. Now I've added some concrete detail in the outer ring. I've addressed figurative language, some metaphors. The two at the beginning, nature's first green is gold, and her early leaf's a flower. And I've indicated in the center ring or middle ring that these are a pattern of metaphors that compare springtime or early stages of life, such as youth, to gold, which is something precious and valuable. Lastly, I've added some more figurative language to the outer ring, the metaphors towards the end of the poem. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief, so dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. These metaphors all suggest that periods of youth and beauty, paradise, glory, all come to an end. So now I have a lot of details, a lot of connections and patterns that I found, and what I want to do is try to put all these puzzle pieces together to come to a single abstract idea in the center. What's really cool about this is if I had just come to that abstract idea based on the diction that I pulled in the first example. I might have come up with a theme about time, but since I've added these metaphors related to youth and early stages of life, and I've also found some metaphors that suggest that youth is not eternal, that youth at some point leaves us, then I can come up with an even better thematic idea. It's not just going to be about time. It's going to connect all of these ideas together. Here you can see my complete thematic statement. Appreciate the value, innocence, and beauty of youth because it doesn't last long. So what you're seeing here is not necessarily a complete concentric circle diagram. I've only identified 3 different types of concrete evidence in the outer ring. There are several other things we could look for. There are other examples of diction in the poem. We could talk about shifts, contrasts, onomatopoeia, rhyme, or any of the syntactical elements that you notice as well. These all could go in the outer ring. Then you would have to look for patterns. Where do you see things connecting? Where are things being repeated? Where are there more than one example of something expressing a certain idea? The center ring is where you draw your conclusions, make your inferences, and find patterns. Lastly, you want to look at all of the patterns, all of the details, all of the connections that you found, put them together to create some further or deeper level of meaning about the text. You certainly can have more than one thing in the middle. This is just an example of this process and what it would look like as you do it on your own. One final thing I'll mention, this is probably going to be easier to do with a pen or pencil and a piece of paper. As you can see, the text boxes do not perfectly fit in the circles. If you're okay with that, then you could certainly complete this assignment on a computer or an iPad, but it might be easier and better to use pen and paper, maybe even colored pencils or pens if you like.